is here for you.
Hi, my dear Rosa family. So today we are going to be looking at the upcoming full moon that is taking place in the sign of Scorpio. This is pretty much of a mega intense Scorpionic full moon. Now that's typical for the Scorpio energy, right? But on top of that, this full moon has got a lot of aspects going on as well. So it's going to be slightly bit of a longer video, and I'm going to break this down for the 12 signs also. So the first part is going to talk to you about the general meaning of this full moon. And then the second part is going to be talking to you about the 12 signs very briefly. But I recommend very much listening to the first part of the video because that's going to be giving you general knowledge. And secondly, you can place that into your own natal chart as well. So it will make a lot more sense. And I would like to ask you to press like on this video and also subscribe to the channel. Still about 60% of my viewers are not members of my family, and I would like you to be part of it. And thirdly, if you would like to study with me or have a reading with me, then you might want to be looking up my website, AstroViktor.com. You can book your services there. Now I've got a reward point system also on my website. You can collect your points and then you can redeem those points and then you can get free webinars or you can just spend it on my website and so on. And I've got a very exciting course that's just started right now about Saturn. We had the first lecture already. We're looking at Saturn as the family legacy. So, what type of karma you were born into, what you brought into this incarnation from your family legacy. And we also looked at the immediate family legacy as well, which is actually coming through your sun and moon sign. So, how the parents treated you and so forth. So, it is an exciting course all about Saturn. Saturn is the planet of reward and major success. So we need to be making peace with Saturn so that we can actually utilize it in the bestest possible way. But let's get started with this full moon in Scorpio. So it's on 22-degree Scorpio moon, and we've got the sun on 22-degree of Taurus. Now, the sun is actually in conjunction to Uranus on 26-degree, which is actually sitting on Algol. But we've got additional aspects. So this full moon is in conjunction to Juno, who is on 24 degrees Scorpio. Then we've got a square to Pallas Athene on 23-degree Aquarius. We've got a pretty tight quincunx to Jupiter on 23-degree of Gemini. And then we've got a wide trine to Saturn and Ceres conjunction, which is happening on 29-degree of Pisces. So we've got a lot, oh, and we've got additional asteroids as well, by the way, to consider. One of them is going to be um, Iran. So I'm going to talk about that as well. So stay till the very end. Let's have a look at. So a full moon is always about something that is pretty much getting intensified. It's kind of like a conclusion. It is revealing something about what is happening in our lives. Now, a full moon in Scorpio would be about having to release something. Often it's a feeling of trauma, certain type of anger, or something that is super painful. Now, because the dispositor of full moon, we have got two, Pluto or Mars. If you are more of a traditional person, then you would be looking at the position of Mars. And if you're more of a modern mindset, then you would be looking at Pluto. But of course, looking at Mars, which is in the sign of Leo, it indicates that the trauma that we are meant to be releasing is around self-expression and pride-related matters. Now, as we said, we need to be releasing some type of pain and traumatic experiences here. Maybe it is also connected to childhood experiences with Mars in the sign of Leo. It can be something that we have been addicted to, for example. The reason why, because Uranus is on Algol. And our goal could represent addiction problems. I did make a webinar about the meanings of our goal, so if you want to dive into that a little bit deeper, just go on my website and then check it out. But because the sun is in the sign of Taurus, we have got set ways of doing something. And Taurus is very much about reality. It's very much about the comfort zone. And Scorpio is the representation of having to release that, having to walk away from it. Maybe it's something to do with rage. Maybe it's an underlying anger issue, something that we might not be aware of. And this full moon highlights it. This full moon wants us to be aware that something that is hurting our pride, that is hurting our individuality, and it gets intensified, and therefore often we are fighting against it. We want to be sweeping that under the carpet rather than wanting to drag it out. Or simply, if I feel threatened, then I'm going to be attacking others. With the Uranus being or opposing this full moon, this could give us the feeling that I want to be free again. I don't want to be restricted anymore. But potentially it's an opposition. So I'm not too sure how to get that freedom back. It could also become super scary being free from, let's say, an addiction problem. Why is that? Because I don't know what is about to come into my life. It can feel like that I'm in a certain type of a prison, in my own prison, and I'm not too sure how to break out of it. You might be afraid of standing out like as a true individual. I mean, Mars is in Leo, so that's about individuality, surely. Why do we not want to stand out? Because potentially we might get rejected. And that would be the modern rulership, Pluto being in the sign of Aquarius. What if they're gonna hate me for it? If I do something that society doesn't agree with, other people do not agree with, my family doesn't agree with it, and so on. Now, Scorpio is the representation of money as well as Taurus. So this could be also talking to you about being frustrated with certain type of fluctuations with the money. Because with Uranus, often what happens is that we get our money like not periodically. Like I get paid and then maybe I don't get paid for another 2 months and I'm getting tired of it and I want to break out of it. Uranus, imagine that Uranus is kind of like the second teenage era. So often we act out with Uranus. We shut the doors, especially if it happens in your vocational houses, which is the second, the sixth, and the 10th house. And I'm actually running a course. We are halfway through, and we just spoke about Uranus transits the vocational houses. And then it really feels like that because I feel rejected, I don't feel appreciated, I am unable to stand out, I'm feeling restricted by the work that I do, then I just want to walk out of it. And often we make a decision without any type of like thinking through the consequences. And this could be affecting our finances in the sign of Scorpio and Taurus. Also, there is Pallas Athene here as well, as you can see it on the chart. And Pallas Athene is definitely inviting us to come up with certain type of strategies, to be smart, not to make a conclusion, not to jump into an opportunity that might hurt our finances later on. Paula Satini is about coming up with a plan, spotting patterns as well. So spotting certain type of financial patterns or spotting how we are projecting our underlying issues onto others also. And because Scorpio's themes is also around power dynamics as well. Maybe it's actually time for us to start thinking where I have lost my own power and how to get it back. Taurus wants to stabilize things, so how I can stabilize my own power. Now, we've got Uranus opposing it, and Uranus is also an intuitive hit. So it could feel like that your intuition is actually telling you something, but with an opposition, do I listen to my intuition? or simply we allow our intuition to guide us because Scorpio feels it too. Scorpio is something like feeling it in your guts. You might not be able to verbalize it, but you know that the change is about to come. So you can get these profound healing urges. You can get these healing messages out of the blue. And maybe at the beginning you are not able to make sense of them, but maybe a year down the line, or even just 6 months down the line, oh, that's exactly what it meant. The question is it too late because I didn't take action on those intuitive hits? Or did I take action and then it led me somewhere? Because Uranus is also quite a successful planet. It's a little bit of a lottery ticket planet. Sometimes it gives you a great amount of money, and sometimes it takes a lot away from you as well. It's kind of like a unique opportunity planet. But also, the Taurus Scorpio axis could talk to you about the angle of talent as well. So, are you able to see your own unique talents? Are you able to see how you can stand out, how you can turn your life around? Do you see what is special about you? Or do you feel like that you are just getting like lost among the crowd? Oh, there are so many people who does tarot reading, for example. I'm not gonna queue up. But Uranus is inviting you to kind of like put your own spin on it. What can I change? How can I do things differently? Uranus is the planet of upgrade. So we are meant to be upgrading the way we look at our finances, the way we look at our own habits, the way how we look at our healing journey as well. So embracing your own unique talent is super important. It's also about seeing that we are all special. You might want to feel, you might feel actually that it's better to do things alone. You might feel that you want to be removing toxic people out of your life. You might feel that somehow people that I'm surrounded by are disturbing my own energy level, and I want to do that cleansing. Or I don't want to be around these people because they are annoying. And maybe annoying because they are Uranian types. So they are electric, they are different, they are all over the place, they are chaotic. And I don't want them to bring more chaos into my own life. Because with Uranus, there is always certain type of a disruption going on. So the Sun and Moon opposition is always certain type of a relationship meta. And there is certain type of disruptions happening in my relationship. Now, this is definitely coupled with Juno being part of it as well. So there is a disruption to an agreement. We agreed on something before, and somehow that's kind of like getting chaotic. Somehow that is getting kind of kicked off. It could even indicate that we have agreed that, we're going to support each other. We're going to lend you money and all those type of stuff. And then and then somehow this is not happening. Now, Uranus and Juno made already free opposition. So pretty much the opposition started on January 17th, 2025. So maybe we had certain type of agreements happening there. That was an opposition as well. So that was a culmination type of, an opposition is always a culmination in certain type of partnership agreements. And sometimes with Uranus, we just walk out of it. One is going right, the other one is going left. But there is a lot of drive here for freedom, a lot of external disruptions as well. Of course, the Taurus and Scorpio axis is also about possessiveness. Like I owe you because I helped you, I don't know, 10 years ago, and then now you still owe me, and then you're gonna have to kind of pay this karmic debt back. So Juno is in the sign of Scorpio, and Scorpio is the sign of control, but also the intimacy department as well in certain type of relationships. And Uranus wants to walk out of it. Uranus wants to get detached from those. So I'm getting tired of you being jealous. I'm getting tired of your controlling behavior. And then if there are no changes, we cannot improve on that, then I'm just wanna walk away from it. So this aspect, as I said, we already had three oppositions happening between Uranus and Juno, started in January, pretty much until April. So it's a 4-month opposition, and now this full moon is actually highlighting that. So you can even go back. Did you make any type of agreements, for example, in January, February, March, or April? And then now this maybe that connection is going to get intensified, or we just want to end that type of connection. I want to walk out of it. It really looks like that this full moon is asking us to look at how we are committed to others or to our goals, but we're going to have to redefine those. This is going to talk to us about or show us whether this is the right way of doing things or not. Now, we're going to have a final opposition, by the way, between Uranus and Juno, but it's going to be sometimes in October 2025. So this full moon really feels like that this is kind of like stretching out till 2025 October. I think some intense times are coming up. Now with Uranus often like hits us unexpectedly. Often it's kind of like unexpectedly I walk out of a contractual agreement. Unexpectedly I want to take revenge on another person. But these are fixed signs, and often they are talking to us about resistance and the inability to get outside of our comfort zone. And then if Uranus feels like that, like you are not ready to get out of this mud or situation because one is earth, the sun is in earth sign, the moon is in water sign. When you mix those, that's a mud. And then Uranus is going to kind of hit you even harder and harder and harder so that you can actually jumpstart. You can get out of that scenario. That's why Uranus is kind of like the tower card. There is a lightning bolt and then it hits the top of the tower, and then the fear of that collapsing. So there are three solutions there. Am I gonna stay in the tower because I've got my possessions there, I've got my money there? I'm gonna give you an example because my best friend told me this example that they were at a hotel and then in the middle of the night there was fire. And the partner was running out, and my friend was collecting the valuables, collecting the laptop, collecting the money, and all those type of things. And then, my friend was like, hold on a minute, we have to run. So anyway, they were still one of the first ones to leave the hotel. And then another person, an Indian person, actually saw the backpack on my friend's back. Or did you bring your valuables? And then my friend was like, of course. So this person wanted to go back to the hotel room, risking his own life to get his own valuables as well. Obviously, you are not meant to be taking your valuables with you, but stuff like that. But my friends decided to do so. So this is the Taurus and Scorpio and the tower type of kind of energy where are you going to stay on top of the tower because you've got things there that you truly value, or you're just going to jump out of it? And then you let the tower to kind of collapse, and then I'm going to rebuild it anyway. So this is something because whatever Uranus brings, it's always unexpected. It's always out of the blue. It's something that is going to shock us. It's something that I am not ready potentially just to handle yet. And also with Pallas Athene squaring this point, often, a square is an indication that I don't care whether others are suffering or not. I want to have that winning. But with Pallas Athene, it's always about creation of a win-win situation. So let's say that we are talking about certain type of debts here. It's kind of like a discussion with the bank. Okay, I owe you $100,000. How can we reduce that money? I've got, I don't know, 40,000 to pay you back. Are you willing to agree with me on that? And then both of us win. Because let's say the original loan was 20,000 and then now I didn't pay it for 5 years. Now it's 100,000. So can we somewhere stay in the middle? And I'm going to pay you 40,000. Do you agree or do you not agree? So Apollo Saturn would like to come up with this type of win-win situations here. And Apollo Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius. So somehow the win-win situation is impacting the society, the morale, the social justice, and overall people. I would say that obviously this is a very conflicting type of full moon. The reason why we also need to be aware of potential conflicts is because we have got a Mercury and Pluto square exact two in this chart. So Pluto would be the modern ruler of this full moon. And with Pluto Mercury, it could be very harsh words, very intense words that we are using. We could become a little bit of a loudmouth type of scenario with that. But also we can put on the researcher's hat and that investigative mindset, and then we are looking for the truth. So do I believe every single gossip that is spread, about, let's say, because Mercury is in the sign of Taurus, which is definitely an invitation having to slow down our way of thinking, having to kind of like think through. It's a little bit actually more to do with a strategic way of thinking. I mean, when Mercury entered Taurus, actually Mars was bang on squaring Vesta as well. It happened on the 10th of May, 2025, so just 2 days before the full moon. So Mercury in Taurus is information about land, information about the physical world, information about the earth. This is telling us that our communication um, has to be very proof orientated, or I'm just only going to talk when I've got the proof in my own hand, but it's also being able to listen to others as well, because Taurus is about practicing patience as well, or certain type of information that I'm looking for or waiting for comes to me very slowly. And then Pluto might start getting anxious that, why is that piece of information not coming to me? This is telling us that we're going to have to calm the brain down a little bit. We're going to have to calm down the way we kind of like process information, look for the information, and so on. And with Pluto, it's kind of like even somehow stopping the brain to be on that overrun mode. And finding your own peace of mind as well. This is telling you that you're going to have to live in the now. But often what happens with the Scorpionic full moon in the sign of Scorpio, that we are living in the past. Because Scorpio is the inherited problems. Often this is kind of like the rooted issues, right? And then it comes from, I don't know, 100 years ago. Maybe it comes from 5 years ago. And then somehow it comes back up. Obviously, Scorpio is a water sign, and water is connected to memories. So all of a sudden, we start remembering things. And with that Uranus flavor, we start remembering out of the blue. So, of course, Mercury in the sign of Taurus is thinking about money and possessions and land. And then Pluto feels like that, you know what, maybe I have to fight for it because this is my land. But it used to be yours. It's not necessarily mine now. So Pluto is also asking, are you able to let go of it? So, but moving a little bit forward, of course, with the Scorpio full moon, being aware that you have got these intense emotions going on now, or simply how you can feel more empowered, how you can gain more emotional strength. The Sun in Taurus has worked on your physical strength a little bit more, like a little bit, for the last 22 days. The moon is inviting you to start working on your emotional strength now, to feel emotionally empowered, potentially to break out of something. And the breaking out comes from Uranus. It really feels like that the Scorpio full moon is telling us to purify our soul. Maybe you have started doing that with your body. But with that moon, we often have to remove something in our like aura as well, or our surroundings, or in your soul. Potentially, moon represents the body as well. So you have to remove something out of your body as well. So maybe it's a relationship. Maybe what the problem is with Taurus and Scorpio, which is about giving and receiving. So what I do and what I get back in return is not equal. And then with Paula Satini very tightly squaring this, it says we're gonna have to sit down in a social environment, maybe with our friends, maybe just at a restaurant. Maybe we need to get out of that environment that we usually have these conversations in, and then do it in a social setting. And then we're gonna have to come up to an agreement, but fairly. Because Pallas and Aquarius together is also about fairness. We're gonna need to come up with something that is good for both of us. We must compromise. And because Juno is very much emphasized as well, tightly conjuncting this relation, I mean, this full moon, Juno represents relationship topics. So we're gonna have to compromise with someone that we made an agreement with. With Scorpio, full moon is super goal orientated also. Having Palasatine being in the picture, it really feels like that we're gonna have to have a goal that mutually support everyone. So aligning the goals, but not giving up on your own principles and values, but maybe just taking it down a notch. With Juno, which can also be the representation of a business partner, and maybe it's a 5149 type of business partnership. And the 51 can feel like that, I've got the upper hand. Can we somehow make it equal, so that the 49 feels just as strong as well? And of course, this could be going down in your own married life also. I think we're going to have to be digging deep here to look at what needs to be done, what I need to commit to, what type of new habits I would like to integrate into my life. Remember, Scorpio is like the toilet. So we're going to have to do a lot of clearance. We're going to have to throw things out because we have been holding on to something for a very long time. And Sun in Taurus likes accumulating things. Maybe this is a childhood memory. Maybe this is people. Maybe these are objects that are not serving you anymore. And with Uranus, it's not just Uranus who is in the picture, but Saturn as well. Look at Saturn sitting on 29-degree. And something that is old and outdated needs to be thrown out of the window. But let me talk about those a little bit later on, because that Saturn, I think it's a wide trine, but it's a trine to this new moon, which indicates it's trying to help. Like the outdated visions that we've got needs to be thrown out of the window. I think Saturn, which is also the planet of awareness, with Saturn and Ceres conjunction, it says that if we become aware, if we practice self-care, then this could turn out to be good. But you might need to be able to get rid of illusions, the way you deceive yourself. The people in your life who might have lied to you or make a fool out of you needs to be removed. They need to be flushed down on the toilet, basically. And then with Saturn, it's about rebuilding something. And Scorpio is often about rebuilding, especially with the Uranus. Like I said, it's a thunderbolt that is knocking over the top of the building. So then you can rebuild your entire life. You can create healthier boundaries. You can get rid of attachment. Series represents attachment styles, something that we are so like holding on to because it used to be so precious. But that piece of item is also toxic as well at the same time. Imagine that you have been wearing a ring because it's kind of like a memory, and that's great. But your partner hates the fact that you are wearing that ring because they gave you a new ring, and then you don't want to wear that ring. And it could be something that I feel like I'm not as important as that memory. So it can lead to certain type of confrontations. The full moons always want to reveal something in our life. In the sign of Scorpio, it wants to reveal or it wants us to face our fears. It wants us to face our most hidden desires, but also our most hidden like skeletons in the closet as well. I think it says to you that it's time to open that closet. It's time to do a spring clean here. But with Mars in Leo, are you proud to look beyond? Are you scared just to scratch the surface? Or are you ready to go all in? Because with Scorpio, it's all or nothing. Either I do nothing or I'm going to do it all type of energy. But your ego can be in the way, even though Mars is not squaring it. But by sign, we have got a square aspect happening between the full moon and Mars. Somehow, did someone hurt your pride? This is why you are maybe murderous or you are planning a revenge against someone. Is that really a solution? Maybe look at it that this is just one solution to plan a revenge on someone. Another one is to go deeper and see where this trigger might come from. Where does this originate from? What does it remind me of? And with that Saturn in the sign of Pisces, forgiveness must be practiced. Or ask yourself the question, do you love yourself enough to be able to say no to these people, to these bloodsuckers in your life? Because Scorpio kind of like represents these bloodsuckers as well. Or just ask yourself, is it worth to be annoyed or to get anxious over these criminal activities you run, so over these outsiders who just come and go into my life? Is it worth it? Because what happens with Mars in Leo is that it's the ego. So when these bullies, I mean, I've seen a couple of videos recently with Simon Cowell on a competition, and kids are coming up there, to this AGT and so forth, talking about how much they get bullied. And then he says that bullies are always jealous of the talent of these people. And I completely agree with that. And it reminds me of that a little bit. That Mars in Leo often gets bullied because they are not aware of their own strength. And then the Scorpio full moon is like, let me stab them in the back. Is it really something that you want? Or maybe even ask yourself the question, are these people actually bullying me? Or do we just somehow imagine that with Saturn in the sign of Pisces? Or am I going to believe this lie and gossip and so forth? Or am I going to be doing the investigation myself to get to the bottom of it? It looks like that something needs to die in our lives, to let go. And Saturn in Pisces says that if you let go of these attachments, then you're going to be able to heal. And you're going to be able to open a new door. You're going to attract new opportunities in your life. And, often with Mars in Leo, our reaction is super dramatic. We overreact. We are dramatic. So we can act like it's the end of the world. Because I don't know, we were walking with my partner on the street and then they looked at another girl. And then I start acting out a little bit crazy. Uranus being in the picture, Uranus acts crazy. It acts out of the norm. So often you will also see that people are acting in a erratic way around you. And maybe when it comes to finances, all of a sudden everyone is running to the shop to buy toilet paper because I heard that next week the prices are going to be double. And, like that type of stuff. But Uranus also represents trends. So it could be the emerge of a new trend, and people all of a sudden want to spend money on that. With the Scorpio full moon, ask yourself the question, who is possessive? Who is jealous in my life? Who is trying to control me? Who is trying to manipulate me? And how am I going to remove them from my life? On a deeper level, this is asking us to heal family issues, to heal toxic behaviors, to get rid of toxic habits, and find out certain type of truth. I mean, truth is, a double-edged sword as well, especially with this Pluto and Mercury square, because finding out the truth can really agitate us, but also we can get obsessed with all this fixed energy about the truth also. And then also, what does the truth do to me? Is that going to liberate me with the Uranus opposition to the full moon? And that's going to set me free? Or that's going to make me that murderous type of person because I cannot stand the truth. I cannot tolerate it. Also, with Scorpio and that Pluto Mercury square, we've got this laser focus mindset. So, do we just focus on money, on wealth, or material elements, and that's sun in the sign of Taurus? Or are we actually focusing on internal changes as well? Do we want just to make changes externally, or are we ready to make changes within the self as well? Because the within the self process might be slower, but in the long run, that's going to become the most visible. Now, as mentioned earlier, we do have got the Sun and Uranus conjunction on Algol. Well, if it wasn't enough, we also have got Hygeia. Hygeia in the sign of Taurus, which is basically we've got a triple conjunction going on here. And I want to talk a little bit about that too. Because Hygeia, first of all, is the asteroid of prevention. It's a medical astrology to be, I mean, it's a medical asteroid to be frank. She was the daughter of Asclepius, and she was all about like dental hygiene and all these type of like preventions. We brush our teeth, because we are trying to protect our tooth and so forth. So, Hygeia is about doing certain type of actions to be able to prevent what we've got from being taken away. So it's kind of like, okay, you know what? I'm afraid that the criminal is going to break into my home, so I'm going to put a security system in. Or I am so afraid that, I don't know, the banks are going to be collapsing. So from not wanting to lose everything, I'm going to take my money out. These are the type of things that Hygeia might be doing in the sign of Taurus. However, this is telling you that, again, because Taurus is super grounded, super practical, and maybe we're going to have to be liberating ourselves from these very certain ways of brushing our own teeth. Hygiene in Taurus is about sticking to effective health measures. But Uranus wants us to be a little bit more unconventional. Okay, maybe I use Colgate, to brush my teeth. Now I'm going to use a different brand instead. Let's see what type of results it's going to give me. And that would be the message. Or, maybe Hygeia in Taurus is also about often feeling the pressure that I need to be more determined. I need to brush my teeth very vigorously. And then Uranus might be telling you that, oh, girl, loosen up a little bit. You don't have to press down the toothbrush so hard. You're just gonna have to do it like, maybe with a new toothbrush, buy this electronic toothbrush. It's a very silly example, but try to put it, into your own life. I'm just kind of like trying to demonstrate what this is actually talking to you about. And I think with Hygeia and the sun together is also about being devoted, about trying to figure out what the path of yours is. And maybe it comes with unexpected twirls and, like maybe sometimes you're going to walk off the road with that Uranus because something else exciting is there. And, so maybe it represents a bit of delays there. And, Hygeia in Taurus is often about just sticking to something that I know. It's kind of like the tested ways of taking care of the body. And Uranus says there are so many good, unconventional ways of treating your body as well. So open up your horizon and go towards that. Also, try it out, have new experiences. I mean, Taurus and Scorpio is also intimacy department as well. Taurus is more about the self-pleasure, so masturbation and so forth. And then with the Scorpio, it's more about the intimate connection with the partner. And with this Uranus Hygeia, how to prolong the length of the relationship. And maybe that's by looking at the intimate department, looking at the sensual as well as the sexual experiences within the relationship. And it needs to be balanced out because with Uranus, we can go to the extremes. We can, we can feel like that, I need, not less more and more, but I need this adrenaline rush. And then we can become this adrenaline junkie with that. So that's where high G and Taurus comes into the picture, which is telling you, be a little bit more cautious, be a little bit more moderate. Okay, we're going to do these experiments, I don't know, once a month, once a week, and so forth. And same applies to your finances as well. How to prevent money? Am I going to jump into a potential investment and then regret that later on? It's also about because Taurus is about beauty and Scorpio is the aging. So many of us could be struggling with these aging process and Uranus is the invention. So we can have these new aging creams coming up and so on. And then you are like, yeah, I want to try that out. And then it might cost a fortune. No problem. But, if the promise is giving me the results, I'm really going to go on to that. And even with Taurus and Scorpio, it really feels like that there needs to be a balance between work and play as well, though. It really feels like that it's not just about working 24/7, but also, from a hygiene point of view, sometimes health wellness topics comes into the picture. With Taurus, a bit of massage, a bit of pampering. And that's how important to feel kind of like rejuvenated. And that's the Scorpio part, the rebirth. So that's another topic that is super important, I think, to explore in this. Now, what else do we see? Potentially, I feel like with Uranus opposing this full moon, there is this deep emotional release here. There is this soul awakening. By the way, Uranus represents your ancestral karmic memories as well. So it really feels like that something kind of like a karmic feeling could be coming back, something that might get repeated here. Also, so I spoke about the Sun conjunct Hygeia, but I would say that maybe you also feel like that you are too protective towards what you have, that obviously I don't want anyone to touch it. I don't want anyone to take it from me. So we can get anxious with that Uranus being there too. What if someone wants to steal something from me? From a global point of view, Uranus Juno opposition, we made an agreement that this money is going to get paid back to us at one point. So where is the money? Maybe the deadline is about to expire. Maybe it's certain type of a karmic payment. Maybe it's actual physical money that needs to be paid back to someone. Okay, so why did you not pay it? Then you owe me a land instead. And that could lead to a conflictual type of scenario. And as I mentioned also, we do have got Israel asteroid on the moon as well. So this might be paying somehow like Israel is expecting someone to pay their debt, or Israel is about to or having to pay their own debts back as well. So with this full moon, what's also very interesting is, and we tend to forget about that, because as you look at this chart, Uranus is bang on opposing this full moon, but then Saturn is on 29 degrees. So obviously, this Saturn plays a very significant role. And we tend to call Uranus and Saturn two complete different energies, which is actually true. But there is something in common between them two. Both of them were so afraid of losing their status, so they decided to kind of like do something with their children. So Uranus kind of threw his children, I think, in the ocean, and then he got castrated for it. That's how Aphrodite was born, and Saturn swallowed them and all those type of stuff. So whenever this active energy is playing, out, Uranus says, throw out the outworn, the old, and then replace it with something new because a change is inevitable. And then Saturn potentially might be holding on to something, but this Saturn is on 29 degree of Pisces. This is ready to move into Aries. This is ready to start to go on a new self-discovery. So it looks like that we are experimenting on a global level of a new political or structural change. Maybe I'm going to give you an example. I know, it might be a silly example, but hopefully it demonstrates pretty well. I know that McDonald's has been testing robots since 2016, but it hasn't really got launched yet. Like robots would be working in the kitchens. But they haven't really launched it yet. And maybe, now it's kind of like a time to launch it because Saturn is ready to move on. Somehow it got accepted in the sign of Pisces, kind of like finally. We might have been talking about this structural, political change or societal change. Of course, with Saturn being on 29 degree, which is the representation of boundaries as well. So I'm ready to kind of open up my boundaries. I'm ready to become a little bit more experimental. I'm ready to get rid of these limitations and so on. So I'm seeing certain type of a willingness here as well. And because we've got this full moon in the sign of Scorpio, it feels like that Saturn is a little bit like forced because of an intense situation to open up those borders, to go towards that change. It feels pressured. Maybe this Saturn feels like I don't have any other choice but to kind of open up, and whether it's good or bad, we will see in the world. But because Uranus is tightly having this opposition to this full moon, it looks like we've got this chaotic scenario that has to go down so that Saturn is going to be willing to go towards the change. And it's not going to be that restrictive or restricting. Because Saturn in Pisces, what we had to learn was to let go of something. And not to mention that Uranus is about to change sign as well. Both planets are going to be shifting back into the previous sign, so there could be regrets also around that too, by the way. But at the same time, this is also like, if something died, you cannot just kind of like bring them back to life. So this is what Scorpio tells you. Either I finish it right now, or maybe I'm never gonna finish it. It could feel like that this is my last chance to come to a conclusion, to come to an end with it. And then if I hold on to something, Uranus, that's why it brings the chaos. That's why it pressurizes you even more. That's why it starts crumbling things around you. So I think, you can look at this Scorpio from an emotional baggage point of view, the inherited problems, family issues, time to put them down. So I think we mentioned everything that is good to be known about this upcoming full moon. So now let's break it down for the 12 signs. So let's start with Aries rising signs. So for you, Aries, first of all, this full moon is going to be happening in your eighth house. This is talking to me about that it's time to do emotional exploration. It's time to face some of your emotions as well. It's time to dig deep. It's time to kind of like eliminate some of your conflicting feelings. Potentially, it is time to make decision. Something is getting intensified in your life, something that is might be out of control. You cannot control certain type of changes in your life. So potentially it's the reinvention of the self as well. If something goes down in my life, how I am going to be dealing with that. This is about rising out of the ashes. It's about the reinvention of the self. And potentially, you have to be reinventing the way you look at money, the way you deal with money, the way you spend your money, the way you earn your own money as well. This is also about trying out new things. This is not about controlling the money. Maybe this is a little bit of an investment. Maybe you have to awaken that brave side of yours. And also often remembering that giving up on something or walking away from something, you just need as much courage for that as kind of like staying in a certain type of situation. This is telling me that you're going to have to do this deep dive into what your heart truly wants. And that comes from obviously Mars being in the sign of Leo as well, which is in your fifth house, the heart desire. It's not just about scratching the surface, but going beyond it. It might be about working through some of your childhood experiences, of course. But with that, Uranus, it might be that you are going to be a little bit wild about what you do with your own body, what you do with your finances, and so forth. I think embrace the change, don't resist the change, welcome the change into your life. Trust your gut feelings, trust your intuition. Sometimes what our intuition is telling us, it's actually an uncomfortable feeling. So that you can rise from the ashes and then you can become the unapologetic version of yourself. Also, you might need to become a little bit more aware in your relationships as well. What I receive, what I give, is that in balance or not? I would also say that potentially we're going to have to be looking at the intimacy department, like trying to make this relationship a lot stronger. Of course, Mars is in the very romantic part of your chart as well. And having the full moon in the eighth house represents intimacy matters. Some of you potentially want to have a baby. Some of you are kind of like rejecting the idea with that due to financial matters. And also, this could even indicate that you get a piece of news about inheritance. For example, with the Pluto and Mercury square that is going on at the same time. Maybe it's time to reassess what I've got, what type of stocks I've invested into, what type of investments I've got. And maybe with the Uranus, all of a sudden you want to make a shift. Now, that's also highly possible as well. And also, it really feels like that you are about to go through this emotional healing also. Something that might be going down in your life that leaves you a little bit vulnerable, or you are questioning whether you can trust others as well, like what is my partner doing with their money and so forth. Maybe you've got the tendency to shovel every single piece of feeling of yours under the carpet, but actually it's asking you to reveal them somehow, to free yourself up from it. It's really much about, with the second house, you have focused on the physical strength, and in a way, you've become a bodybuilder. Now, in the eighth house, I'm going to have to be dealing with crisis situations on an emotional level as well, which might be somehow, knocking us down. This could talk to you about having to pay the debts back or someone who is meant to be paying the debts back to you. I think it's time for you to explore your inner thoughts a little bit, your vulnerabilities, your deep emotions. Where do they originate from? So that you can free yourself up and you can become that reborn version of yourself. Okay, of course, there are some asteroids involved as well, but I've spoken about them at the beginning of the video, so please listen to that. Now, let's move on to Taurus rising sign. So, dear Taurus, this full moon is taking place in your seventh and first house. So, this full moon is all about having actually maybe working through some of your fears so that you can be in the spotlight. It really feels like that there is this entitlement to be who you want to be. Because the sun is in your first house and the sun wants to shine. But maybe we feel like that there is a blockage from someone who doesn't allow us to shine, who is controlling our sunlight in a way. So you can ask yourself the question, how am I going to remove this person from my life? Of course, this full moon can talk to you about having to ground your emotions when it comes to these connections. Is anyone possessive? Is anyone clinging on me? Or am I a little bit suffocating? And why am I suffocating in these relationships? Finding out the root cause of that. Now, the dispositor of this new moon is Mars in the fourth house. So this might be telling you that a good place to start doing the exploration is something to do with the family patterns, for example. Also, this could be a situation like where you're trying to figure out the truth about a person or a person in your life. Maybe it's a partner, maybe it's a business partner. Maybe this is actually the uncomfortable truth. Maybe certain type of habits of others are bothering you, or there are certain type of attachments these people practice around you, and that makes you feel be suffocated somehow. And all of these are going to get illuminated to you. And it looks like that you have to make a decision. Am I choosing myself or am I going to be choosing the other person? Saturn pretty much tries to give you a lot of clarity around it and telling you that self-care is very important, and maybe having certain type of consultations with others like friends and stuff, or a benefactor or a guru in our lives might be able to highlight, which path to go on. Maybe also you are questioning the loyalty of others. And then maybe what bothers you is that someone is trying to kind of like check up on your phones and stuff like that. And obviously, the topic of jealousy could be popping up in relationships as well. What does love mean to you? How am I going to carry on growing this love matter? And maybe that Saturn and Ceres conjunction in your 11th house could talk to you about that this growth is going to be coming from socializing a lot more. Also, it really feels like that you guys, because the first and the seventh house with fixed cusp, it really talks to us about having to build something. And maybe sometimes you're just going to have to build from the beginning rather than trying to fix what is right in front of us right now. It really depends on where you are standing in your connections right now. So maybe it's a decision to move together to get to the next level in the relationship, or simply, let's say, if we are not necessarily at the greatest stage of our lives in the relationship, then am I ready to let go of this person? Am I ready to get financially um, independent, or am I going to stay in this financial pickle? This position can bring you engagement, getting married, simply getting divorced as well. Uranus is really telling you that you might need a little bit more excitement. You might need to be able to get out of your comfort zone, and we're going to have to be able to kind of like introduce this to our partners. And also, of course, the seventh house is not just a representation of romantic agreements, but it could talk to us about legal matters, as well as it could talk to us about contractual agreements as well. So a sudden opportunity could be popping up in your life, which gives you the opportunity to sign a new contract, hoping that it's going to give you a certain type of a financial growth as well. If you are single, someone actually can bump into you on the roads, meeting someone out of the blue. Maybe you are doubting the motives of others, or maybe you don't know whether you can trust the person or not. Or maybe the person comes across at the beginning unpredictable, and but also they could be sending you these surprising messages. They could be giving you an interesting vibe, for example. So there's a lot of excitement in this potential position as well. I would say it is also spotlighting somehow your professional connections as well, because Taurus and Scorpio is finance. So financial connections that potentially we might be wanting to sign a financial agreement with someone about lending money to a friend of ours, for example, with Saturn and Ceres in the 11th house. Okay, let's move on to our next sign, which is going to be Gemini. So, dear Gemini, this full moon is taking place in your sixth house. Well, for you, Gemini, self-care is going to be a tremendously important topic. I think on one hand, you're going to have to discover new ways of treating your body. You're going to have to be exploring the possibility of some holistic health and integrating those with potential, traditional methods as well at the same time, because the Taurus is a little bit more on the traditional one, but Uranus is alternative techniques. I also think that it is telling you to listen to your body. Also, this is telling you that it's time to implement a new habit. Now, usually it's not necessarily advisable to start something around full moons. But it could be revealing that some of your habits are not necessarily serving your physical body. And at one point, I'm going to have to make that decision that I have to be making these huge changes in my work environment, in my sport, fitness level, and all those type of things. With the sixth house, we often want to maintain, we want to fix something. So it also really feels like that maybe you have to be choosing your emotional well-being right now. That should be one of your priorities. Maybe you're going to have to recognize that we only have got one temple, right? We only have got one body. Maybe we're going to have to be able to go through a purification process so that we feel lighter, kind of like removing certain type of toxins out of our body as well. And what is toxic around me? Is that the work? Because then it could actually talk to you about a change of workplace. Kind of like I'm getting tired of something that I have been doing for a longer period of time. Maybe with that Uranus, I'm getting bored of it. But of course, with the Scorpio moon, often we are just afraid to kind of like choose a new path. But it could indicate certain type of a turning point at work. And with Uranus, there could be certain type of a chaos or a new opportunity could be coming into your life as well. Uh, Maybe you have been out of job for a while. Actually, this full moon actually can help you find a new job as well. Maybe also you are at the end of kind of like a project, and then you are about to kind of release that. And but we have to be doing certain type of corrections, fixing things up, so revisiting certain type of grammar mistakes and so on. So you could be in the very last stages of finishing something up. And I also believe that could be exciting for you. Also, I would say that currently it's not a time when you have to be juggling between many activities, many projects, many kind of like dealing with a lot of things and trying to fix everything at the same time. Scorpio and the sixth house are both very controlling. I feel like the sun and Hygeia conjunction in your 12th house tries to teach you to go a little bit with the flow as well. The self-care sometimes just means that you're gonna have to switch off your phone. You're gonna have to be a little bit more on the like the resting mode. You're gonna have to be taking care of your own needs as well. And maybe also there is something that is going down suddenly in your life and then leaves you somehow worried about something. And with the sixth house, I'm trying to control that. I'm not gonna give up on that. I'm gonna fix this situation. So we can have this anxiousness that I need to fix this. Also, this could indicate that you've got this intuitive hit that from tomorrow I'm going to be doing some stress release program. I'm going to change my lifestyle. I'm going to be actively kind of like focusing on my physical body. Your physical body is a bit challenged, to be frank, with the Pluto Mercury square as well. Mercury rules your physical body. But but obviously, with the Scorpio full moon, that is very emotional as well. So somehow I'm sensing certain type of worries, and potentially maybe you are worried about losing your own job and so on. The sixth house can connect to patterns as well. So maybe you are trying to make changes in the way you work. In the way you kind of like follow certain type of routines and patterns. And often we just need to make a slight change because Taurus is very grounded. Taurus doesn't do too well with certain type of changes. So don't try to introduce something super new for you because you might be walking out of it. Make subtle changes. Okay, let's move on to Cancer rising sign. So, dear Cancer, you've got the full moon happening in your fifth house. What are you truly passionate about? Maybe it's time to investigate that. What can you fall in love with? What is your deepest desire? What have always wanted to do? What makes you truly amazing? What makes you feel truly inspired? These are some of the questions that you're going to have to ask. Now, some of the other questions that pop up with this, why have I been afraid to go after my own desires? How am I going to remove these fears so that I can become who I want to? Do I see things black and white? Either I can do yoga or I cannot do yoga due to financial considerations, for example. Or maybe you can do yoga, but I'm only going to do once a week. Because in a way, this is also a reminder about self-care, but it's more to do with having to do something that truly enjoys and gives something extra to me. And maybe this prompting is going to come up from a friend of yours. Maybe you see that a friend of yours who is going through a very similar trend or pattern in your life affords going to that yoga class once a week and so on. So you want to join. So you might get somehow prompted by a friend of yours to make these type of changes. Also, this could really talk to you about because you do have got Mars in your second house. So this could really talk to you about, yes, you are trying to put a tighter belt on, and you are trying to take money away from some fun activities. Um, Maybe you are trying to kind of like create a budget around holiday plans and all those type of things. Don't eliminate everything in your life, I would say. Keep something that is, prioritize and keep something that is truly you. Yes, this could even talk to you about eating problems. And then the fifth house is being addicted to chocolate and sweets. And obviously, we might want to be kind of cutting down a little bit on that. But this is going to be about passion. This is going to be about your romantic life. Maybe you would like to have a deeper bond with a romantic partner of yours. Maybe simply we are planning to move together, take the relationship to the next stage. We are in a boyfriend and girlfriend type of stage. What if we moved together? So what if we got pregnant? What if we introduced a bit of creativity into this relationship? What if we went out more with friends? What if you introduced a friend of yours to me? And this could also be a topic. Yeah, if you are single, also this could be helping you meeting someone significant, pretty much through your friend's circle. You can get pregnant out of the blue as well, though. So if that's what you want to do, maybe this full moon is actually able to help you with that. Also, there might be an unexpected invitation that is coming from a friend of yours to go to a baby shower or a party, or maybe this is an invitation to reconnect with your inner child as well, though. So, because Scorpio is highly psychological, maybe this is about suddenly you get invited by a friend of yours to go to this, I don't know, paintball event, something that is exciting, fun, maybe something that I've never done before. And then you kind of fell in love with it, fall in love with it. I mean, this could even talk to you about that a lover could be popping back from your past as well, who might have had, let's say, addiction problems before with Uranus and alcohol conjunction. And maybe they turn their life around. So we are reconsidering to connect with these people. Also, of course, this is the bedroom activities as well. So introducing new moves and trying new things out could be very exciting. And also, do I want to take risk? Do I want to take a financial risk? Also, do I have talent in scorpionic fields? Do I have the talent to speak to the dead? Do I have the talent of, I don't know, transforming the body of others and so forth? So a little bit of a talent recognition could be popping up for you with this. Okay, let's move on to our next sign, and that's going to be Leo. So, Leo rising sign, this full moon is taking place in your fourth house. And the fourth house is foundation, family, your living circumstances, but also the past. It really feels like with Scorpio, we're going to have to be digging deeper what happened in the past. By doing so, this could give you a new sense of security. You can create a stronger foundation. But, maybe you don't feel secure where you live, and this is the reason why you would like to relocate. So you might be considering to move. You might have got a sudden job opportunity that can give you that stability because maybe the rent is cheaper and all those type of stuff, and then you have to be considering. But also, this is about looking at your family settings, looking at what you have inherited from the family, digging deeper, looking at your kind of like family DNA system. What is the relationship like with my family members or with people that I live together with? Do I trust more my chosen family? Because we've got Uranus in the picture as well. And that's kind of like your chosen family. Or do I trust the people that I live with? And maybe you're going to have to make a decision around that too. Maybe there are certain type of upsetting moments happening within your family, some sudden events that you're gonna have to take care of. Maybe you have got this emotional baggage that you have been carrying for a very long time, and then now you are reminded. Maybe you have been holding on to a feeling, a grudge towards a member of your family, and it's time to release that. It's time to get that freedom. The freedom comes from Uranus, but also it comes from Mars being around your rising sign as well. Because all those family matters might be holding you back from starting completely fresh. And that's exactly what Mars wants you to do in the first house. It is empowering you to be you. It wants you to kind of like stand your ground, to be strong, to make a decision, to move on from something. And also, maybe you have to make a decision about your career, about your goals. Okay, this is not the goal anymore that I want to do. I want to be able to move on, but it looks like you're going to have the courage for it. Also, with Scorpio, this is death. So it might be an end of a contractual agreement, for example, with your home, and it comes suddenly. So you're gonna have to find a new rent. Maybe something breaks down within the home environment and we have to do renovation. We have to completely relocate because let's say Scorpio is plumbing and sewage and certain type of drainage issues there could be. Often Scorpio represents like stinky things or toilet related matters, and we have to be dealing with that. Of course, this could indicate something to do with an end connected to a family experience. So maybe we are able to put a full stop to a family connections that we had. Maybe that Pluto and Mercury square that you are experiencing right now is an uncomfortable kind of like conversation about the truth. And maybe it's also it could be happening in your professional settings as well, of course. This full moon illuminates. You get to know something about where you came from. You get to know something about your background, about your family. And often, because we do that research with the Pluto and Mercury square, somehow it helps us become free again. Remember that the past always shapes your present and then it shapes your future as well. So revisiting the past could be super important for you. This is kind of like a little bit of a Chironian feeling to me. So you have got these old wounds that are getting highlighted for you, and then now you're gonna have to be able to liberate yourself from them. You're gonna have to be able to walk away from them. This is something to do with your deepest fear, like I'm afraid of spiders. I'm gonna run into those spiders because now I have to work these fears through. And where does that lead with Mars in the first house? I'm going to grow. I'm going to be able to move on. I'm going to be a new me. Imagine this as kind of like a witchcraft type of energy, like a seance that we are going through. Maybe we go to a family constellation therapy, something gets revealed to us. And yeah, it is just the start of a journey for you. So it's really exciting, somehow working through some of your shadow periods. Okay, let's move on to Virgo rising sign. So Virgo, this is going to be happening in your third house. And the third house is so much to do with communication, finding your voice. I mean, this is the power of voice. Scorpio is about power. But have you suppressed your own voice? Have you been quiet about something? Have you been keeping a secret inside of you? And you are afraid that you're going to let the cat out of the bag. You might be afraid that people are going to judge you if you actually speak up because Uranus is not necessarily the planet of judgment, but it's the planet of rejection, though. So maybe I'm afraid to speak. Uh, Also, sometimes we speak with Mars in Leo because I want to be accepted. I want to be looked up to. I want to be, obviously, Mars is in the 12th house. The acceptance could be from the 12th house. Are we speaking for the right reason? Are we using the right words? Because Mars in the 12th house is often actually about, I'm just gonna talk when it's needed. But Leo needs that attention. So sometimes this is about finding the right moment to speak, when to be in silence, and when to actually speak up. The 12th house is also about releasing. So are we very opinionated with the sun in the ninth house? Am I kind of like too focused on the truth? Am I too focused on figuring out, what is true and what is not? That could be also. And do you kind of feel like that these words are mine, or you put words into my mouth, or you've stolen these words from me? So somehow there is a need here to heal a connection. And maybe it's the start of having to have a conversation with a sibling, with a neighbor of yours you haven't spoken to for a very long time. The third house is very much about expressing some of your emotions and thoughts as well. So you might have been quiet. It might be lurking at the back of your mind, and it gets spotlighted to you. This is about um, because if you really think about the third house is between the second and the fourth. The fourth house is the very first emotional house because that's a Cancerian one. And the second house is somehow the physical world and what we have. So maybe there is this transitioning also. This is the reason why the third house is the representation of sales and so forth, because we've got something in the second house, in the third house, we're going to sell that. And then we're going to have a different asset with that, with the fourth house, such as a house and so on. Or simply we are going to start building a family. So it really feels like with the third house also that you are about to rebuild something and you're rebuilding your belief system here. And maybe simply you want to study something. Maybe you're gonna start like you make a decision that I'm not gonna lie anymore about, let's say, being interested in spirituality. I'm gonna say the truth that I'm a spiritual person. I'm going to let people know about my secrets, Mars in the 12th house. Maybe this is connected to education. So you are about to take a spiritual course with Mars in the 12th. And that is going to be something to do with figuring out who you are. This is about secrets, figuring out secrets and getting obsessed with secrets as well. Do focus sometimes on figuring out the truth. What does the truth gonna do to me? Is that gonna liberate me or is that going to be bogging me down? It might be talking to you about having to change your mindset, your perspective over things. It's about the change of mind. So, change of mind about spirituality, the change of mind about, I don't know, having to send a grandparent of mine to a institution, and that's the 12th house. The third house can represent contractual agreements as well. So this could talk to you about, let's say there is this secret opportunity, like you have got a contract that you are about to sign, but I have to keep it as a secret for now. And can I keep that in? I think I mentioned pretty much everything for you, Virgo. Obviously, from a business point of view, the third house is PR, advertising, and social media related matters as well. So this could even talk to you about reinventing the way you treat those as well, potentially introducing something new. Maybe I'm going to listen to a podcast or I'm going to prepare a podcast. And with Scorpio, often we are afraid to do that. Mars in the 12th house can be very hesitant as well. So the positive meaning of this is that how am I going to have that bravery? How am I going to empower myself? And also maybe simply um, I just wish to travel. I just want to be somewhere else. I want to be a little bit more remote. I want to go on a solo trip, which you might have never done before. But with that Mars in Leo, often Mars in Leo wants to go on holidays and so forth. Maybe it's a little bit of a rediscovery of yourself, and then you can find that inner voice that you have been looking for. Now, that could be also something. Uh, and maybe you have been very quiet about something that hurt you. Somehow someone backstabbed you. Maybe someone let the cat out of the bag about you, and then you didn't let them know that it's really hurting. And it's time to actually let them know. Okay, let's move on to Libra rising sign. So, dear Libra, this is going to be happening in your second house, the house of finances. It looks like you're going to have to do a bit of a research about how to make money. You're going to have to be looking at your, like, like in a deeper way, what your connection is to money. What does money mean to me? How does money define my self-worth as well as my net worth? What my values are. Potentially, how much do I sacrifice my own values to be in relationship? Because Libra, you are a very relationship-oriented person. Do I want others to kind of give me gifts, and that is going to be giving me an extra sense of self-worth and confidence? So do I continuously count on the validation of partners and so forth? It is telling you to be honest about your finances. And maybe you have been very rigid the way you look at your money and your self-worth and your values. And then it is somehow asking you to kind of like get rid of these certain type of belief systems or certain type of like rigid ways of approaching this topic. Maybe this is about an invitation to sell something that is a value for you. Maybe something that you have been truly holding on to because it has been dear to you. But also, this could be something that is actually causing you headache as well at the same time. Imagine that, for example, you would like to sell your assets. And then someone comes around and offers you maybe slightly bit less money than you would like to get to. So am I going to be super super opinionated about it? No, 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 I'm only going to sell it for that amount of money. Or am I going to be able to make compromises? That could be also a topic. I think this is definitely a shift, the way you look at how much money you want to make and how else I can make money as well. Also, this could be talking to you about wanting to get a pay rise, for example. So therefore, you can have new job offers coming as well. Maybe this is a job offer that is with Uranus coming out of the blue. Maybe it's affecting your pay for the better, or maybe it's a slightly bit of a pay cut as well at the same time. But what does it give me in the long run? Maybe I would say that with Uranus, actually you can get money out of the blue as well, though, because Uranus is in your eighth house, which is other people's money. So money could be coming your way as well pretty quickly. Maybe actually it is also about making a financial decision. I think it's about changing your financial habits, setting new goals, financial goals as well, certain type of shifts when it comes to contractual agreement at work. So a contract can be ending, but also new opportunities could be coming into your life as well. You might need to be looking at what is dear to you, what gives you a sense of security, and how to grow those abundance. Okay, so let's move on to Scorpio rising. Of course, Scorpio, this full moon is going to be affecting you quite significantly because it is happening in your first house. It shows you who you are deep down. It is going to talk to you about where your power lies, where your raw energies are. It is time to look inward. It is time to also look around in your area, I mean, in your surroundings as well, so that you can figure out your own truth. This is also about, I'm going to show who I truly am. The reason being is because you've got Mars in your 10th house. So I'm going to put it out there, kind of like I'm gonna show how confident I am about who I'm gonna show how confident you are. I am. I don't care who is gonna judge me. I don't care who is going to reject me for it. This is me. And maybe this is affecting your relationship and you are ready to end it. Maybe you are ready to build new connections, those people who are going to accept me. This is even telling us that You know what? I want to come across the bestest version of myself. So I'm going to be making changes in my life, changing my habits, and so forth. But also, don't fall into the trap where you want to become that perfect version of yourself because no one is going to see you perfect. Often, what happens with Taurus, that it wants to get the validation from others. And then we might become this people pleaser type of things. For you, with Mars in the 10th house, I want to be recognized. I want to build a better reputation. I want to get promoted. I want to see, it's so important that you see your flaws, but also you see your own strength as well at the same time. Knowing that we can turn our weaknesses and vulnerabilities into a strength. Sometimes being vulnerable is something that others will appreciate within us. I think this is telling you to look at what has taken away your power, what is your deepest fears, what is your deepest desires, and then kind of like work them through so that you can start fresh. You can be rising like a phoenix bird out of the ashes. So it's a time for you to embrace the change. Yes, maybe there are some chaotic moments, for example, at work, and the change for you is that you're going to have to be shifting jobs and you're going to have to be in a new career, potentially shifting into a new career field, something that is a little bit closer to your heart desire. Maybe the fact that, let's say, you lose your job, maybe it leaves you bitter and like murderous, and you want to take revenge and you want to prove the point that you can be okay without them too, or these people are going to miss me, or they've lost an asset and so forth. Rather than focusing on that, I think focus on figuring out what is actually happening around you and why you had to lose your job, for example. I kind of like imagine this Scorpio full moon as having to peel off certain type of layers from your skin. So this could be talking to you just a deep face cleansing as well, actually. And also, it could talk to you about, from a psychological perspective, why do I have to put this mask up of being in control or being strong all the time? Can I actually show that I am vulnerable as well? I am made of flesh and blood, and that would be Mars in the sign of Leo. I would also say that potentially if you embrace the change ahead of you, then it's definitely a new journey ahead of you. Maybe a new career field, maybe just a new goal that you are ready to do. And Uranus can bring a lot of breakthroughs. Something is ending, potentially maybe a relationship is about to be ending, or we are able to break down some of the walls that we've got intimately with a partner of ours. Maybe simply you feel like that something kind of like has started dying off in your life. It's going away, it's fading away, and you need a bit more passion. You need a new goal to be kind of like looking forward to it. And then you are looking for that. This full moon can feel like destiny is just knocking on my door. So maybe it's a new partnership. Maybe you have been single and then Uranus gives you this sudden opportunity to get together with someone. And it could feel like it's fated. But there could be the fear there. What do they want from me? Is it just a one night stand or is it going to be more serious? And all those type of things could be coming into the picture. The first house is also your identity, the way you actually introduce yourself. This is about new beginnings. This is your personal goal type of houses. So it looks like you're going to have a new goal. Maybe you get prompted by others. Maybe you get empowered by others. Maybe you would like them to support you in the creation of that new self of yours, like the authentic version of yourself. And with Mars in the 10th house, we are ready to show that to others. I mean, the worst case scenario is that we can have arguments with bosses, co-workers, and even with our partners as well, though, because they think of you as a certain type of person, and then you might not be able to see where they are coming from. You might feel like that you are not that type of person. I want them to see me in like in different ways and lenses. Remember that you might want to really prove the point here, and you need a lot of validation. What's the most important is that you are aligned with who you are. Sagittarius rising sign. So this full moon is happening in your 12th house. And the 12th house is a little bit like a moment of silence, a bit of retreat, a bit of withdrawal symptom as well. Addictions. What am I addicted to? It's a little bit reflection, having to reflect on the soul path. What was I born to do? And we can have the doubts, we can have the fears, and potentially those need to be removed. But being a little bit more on the quieter side and reflecting and then doing that hermit journey so that finally you can figure out what you want to be doing. I mean, this could also indicate that, um, I kind of like promise that I'm going to be a little bit more on the silent side. I'm going to be looking for my own truth. Yeah, it could be switching on certain type of a investigative mindset as well, like doing a lot of spiritual research. It could indicate that I feel that I'm empty. Like what I have been doing for a while is not giving me like any type of motivation anymore. Maybe what happens is with Mars in the ninth house that you feel like that opportunities are not coming that easily. I would also say that maybe this could talk to you about, because it's very interesting with Mars in the ninth and the 12th house. With Mars, we tend to be rushing in the sign of Leo. So we're going towards an opportunity. And the 12th house says maybe it's no time yet. Maybe we're gonna have to find a perfect timing. So we can have this battle as well. Do I wanna, I don't know, travel tomorrow, or am I going to be traveling only next year? Also, how dependent are you on, kind of like, because with the it also feels like that maybe you don't feel necessary in the greatest shape of yours. Like, I'm getting old, I don't know, I've got wrinkles and so on. And this could be something that you start kind of like thinking a little bit more about as well. This really looks like that it's time to get down to the ancestry line and doing a deep soul searching as well, knowing where things are coming from. And I would also say that, yeah, maybe you're going to have to be contemplating on what went down in the past, what type of emotional baggages we've got, what type of things that I'm afraid of, what makes me feel anxious. Also, maybe what is my physical health is like, and what is my emotional health is like. And maybe there is no balance there. Maybe you have been focusing on your physical health a lot, but you might not be focusing on your emotional well-being as much. So this 12th house is telling you that it's time to take care of your emotional body as well. Yeah, this could indicate that you're gonna figure out some secrets. You can be part of a scandal. You might plan some, because someone is trying to spread rumors about you and so forth, and then you want to take a revenge on them. You want to dig up something about them, or simply someone is talking behind your back. Maybe a coworker. Maybe it's a person who is an opportunist. Maybe with Mars in Leo, in the ninth house, someone is also somehow in the public life, for example. Also, I would say for you, Sagittarius, that because the 12th house is not just only about solitude, but it's also about closure. And with Scorpio, this is death. Something is about to come to an end. And Uranus, the end comes very out of the blue. And how am I going to deal with these changes? That could be. And with the sixth house, maybe we start blaming ourselves because that's the house of accountability as well. So, kind of like karmic accountability. Could I have avoided this situation? How much am I part of it? You can be blaming yourself for this certain type of endings that you might be experiencing. Also, this could indicate that having to take care of the physical body a lot more, having to implement certain type of new habits, getting rid of certain type of addictions, maybe it's just simply changing somehow your belief system as well, exploring a little bit more your own desires, how you want to look like, and so on. And, because with the sixth house, it's all about regularities, the 12th house is spirituality. Often this is kind of like a sign that you're gonna like see the same numbers, you're gonna see the same like synchronicities and so forth. And you're trying to kind of like figure out where does that come from? And then you do a bit of a research about, okay, why am I seeing 369 all the time? Actually, it's interesting because yesterday, the place that I go to do boxing, there is this lady, and she does have got a Sagittarius sun with a Scorpio rising sign. And she was asking me, I keep seeing number 17. What is that? And I was like, I'm not really a numerologist, but I'm thinking about the tarot cards and what number 17 represents. And then apparently it did make her complete sense. So this was the Sagittarius sun and the Scorpio rising sun. It's kind of like, bringing the two together. And often Mars is in the ninth house because there is an opportunity. I want to make a decision about that very quickly. But the 12th house might be telling you that it's not time to make that just yet. So also, it really feels like that it's about listening. Sometimes it's about active listening, and sometimes it's about what I hear. So, what my muses are telling me, what my intuition is telling me, do I listen to those intuitions, or simply I'm just getting influenced by others, whatever they are telling me? Okay, let's move on to Capricorn rising sign. So for you, Capricorn, we've got this full moon happening in your 11th house. It's about exploration. It's about looking at trends. It's about looking at your future. It's about looking at how you can be part of this bigger picture, how you can be part of this community, in a way, how actually you can break away from a certain type of community as well. How much this community controls my life. So maybe it's a little bit of a detoxification from certain type of social media channels. And maybe with the sun in the fifth house, I'm going to reconnect a little bit more with my heart desire. I'm going to be reconnecting with my childlike type of energies. I'm going to have fun. And fun doesn't mean that I'm always going to do that online. Also, this is because the 11th house is often about growth. Just because Jupiter has got planetary joy in the 11th house, but usually we grow through other people, like benefactors in our lives and so forth. So maybe with the Scorpio full moon, you are looking for meaningful connections, how I can build meaningful connections as well, how I can deepen my connections with my friends, with my benefactors in my life, and so on. And maybe you have withdrawn yourself from your own community and your friends, and it's time to kind of think about how to build that connection back up, because it might be something like a mutual benefit. It feels like you might be doing certain type of collaborations, especially with Pallas Athene in your second house, which is financially mutual benefit. Okay, you scratch my back, I'm going to scratch your back. Let's do a YouTube video, for example, and then it's good for you and it's good for me as well. Also, yes, this could indicate that I want to get validation from my partners. Like with the fifth house, you want to organize this party, and then you're expecting your friends to tell you how good it was. And that's a nice one, right? But not necessarily continuously. I would also say that potentially maybe you have been hurt by a friend of yours and that is hurting your ego. Maybe you're gonna have to be able to help a friend of yours who've been going through a tough uh like part of their lives. And maybe this is also about the fear to become visible. Like, I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be on social media. People might be, digging things about me and so on. Also, for you, Capricorn, I would say that maybe you have been hiding and then now you're gonna have to become a lot more social. Maybe you're gonna have to go to a event. Maybe you are not in the mood. But by the time you get there, you might be in the mood. Sun and Uranus is actually telling you to have a bit more excitement in your life. Also, maybe suddenly a friend of yours who decides to cut the cords with you. Like they might leave you behind. They might actually pass away, unfortunately. But it looks like also that suddenly a new person can pop into your life. And then you kind of feel like that instant connection with that person. And it might be through a social event, especially if you are single. And this would be a romantic connection potentially with someone. Don't miss the opportunity. Make sure that you go out, you are in the community, because they're going to support you somehow through certain type of growth. Yeah, I think also, I think this is telling you to take a risk on yourself as well. Be adventurous. Do something that you haven't done before. Have fun in different ways. Approach your goals and visions and dreams and hopes also in a complete different way. Like maybe it's not about pouring all the money that you've got into a self-employment related matter, but maybe I'm just going to be exploring the possibility of collaborations and so forth. Maybe you have been scared to go after your own opportunities and it's time to go. So, okay. Aquarius rising sign. So you have got the full moon happening in your 10th house. Well, we can be ending a job. We can be worried about that the job that you have been doing is about to end. And also, this might want to highlight the path that you need to be on. Potentially, you're going to have to be looking at how committed you are. What do you do to kind of like elevate your own career path as well? Because we've got Juno there, and that's the sign of commitment. But Scorpio, often the problem is that we are just hiding. Not necessarily lazy because Scorpio is a very hardworking sign, but often it is a fear of making changes. And because we've got Uranus here, which is the planet of disruption, we've got certain type of disruptions, maybe family-related disruptions that are happening connected to our status, the way how people view us, or to our work environment as well. And that makes us emotional. And often with Uranus, we act like a teenager and then we just shut the doors on the parents, for example. Or we get tired of this work situation and then we just walk out of it. On a psychological level, this is telling you to look at the deeper meaning of the job that you do. Like, what is the purpose of, I don't know, being an accountant, for example? Why did I want to start that at the beginning of it? Maybe because the 10th house is also about exposure. Maybe you are expecting to get exposures through another person with Mars in the 7th house. Or maybe it also can indicate that someone that you used to go out with or someone that you have been going out with are actually knocking at your door at home or at workplace. Because obviously this is fourth house is very private. Scorpio is also privacy. So somehow your privacy is getting disturbed by another person. And this might be something that leaves you frustrated. And of course, you might start questioning, like, what is the status of this relationship? 10th house status and Mars being in the 7th house. What are your true motives? Why are you with me? Do you actually love me? Do you use me for sex? Because Mars is in Leo. What your true feelings are, please reveal them. This could even talk to you about that you get to know something about your parents, or simply you get to know something about someone that you live together with, like a partner of yours. Also ask yourself whether the partnership that I'm in, does that really reflect who I am? Or the work or the profession that I do, does that really reflect who I am? And what do you want to create with Mars in Leo? Do you want to create like a bigger clientele? What am I gonna do about it? What type of maybe social media elements I'm going to be using. Somehow it feels like that you're going to have to step outside of your comfort zone. Why are you kind of like controlling how many clients are coming into your lives? There is a little bit of a being adventurous in your own career could be obviously a topic. I mean, this could indicate promotion, a new job offer as well, actually, or simply a job that is about to be ending, or certain type of a transfer, a new working environment. That would also be something that might be uh, on the horizon for you. And maybe you have been contemplating of starting a new job, but somehow fears held you back. Now it's time to conquer those and then going for it, basically. It really feels like this is a new chapter somehow in your professional life. And of course, with Mars being in the seventh house, watch out for certain type of arguments, like arguments with the boss, arguments with clients, and so forth, because they might be a little bit more on the needy side as well. Maybe simply I'm afraid to change directions, and then you're gonna have to be looking at where does that feeling come from? Where is this insecurity coming from? And the fourth house would talk to you about that potentially it is coming originated from the family. And maybe simply you want to be sharing your feelings at work, like something that is uncomfortable. You want to let them know about the truth. How are they going to react to that? You can have those fears also. Okay, and last but not least, Pisces rising sign. So we've got the full moon happening in your ninth house, the house of opportunities. You seem to be having to explore something on a deeper side. You're gonna have to educate yourself, like dive in, a deep dive into a certain type of a topic. And maybe this is connected to health because Mars is in the sixth house. So I'm going to read up on it about certain type of medical matters about, I'm going to do this actually because even though I'm in a very good shape, but I think my muscles should be bigger than they are. So I was thinking to visit a doctor because obviously I had some operations before, and my friend says that it's been affecting my digestive system, and there might be a blockage somewhere in my bowels, which needs to be removed, and potentially the protein is not getting absorbed properly due to the blockage. So he was like, "Oh, you're gonna have to go to this like procedure to check. They put down something on your throat and then they can see what is happening there." So this is kind of like this ninth and sixth house matters, or like one meaning of that. But with Uranus, there is a shocking piece of information that is also coming towards us. And maybe you are looking for this turning point in your medical like part of your life. Maybe you are highly opinionated about medicalities as well. So just you're gonna have to be having a little bit more of an open mindset, I would say. And of course, this could be talking to you about having to have an open mind, right? So towards holistic matters, towards new ways of communicating about something. It could talk to you about just being more open-minded, more curious, even to go on a trip or take a risk in your life as well. I mean, with the ninth house, it's a house of speaking and listening. So I'm gonna talk about the truth. I'm gonna let them know how I feel about something, what my real thoughts are. I'm not gonna kind of hold it back. That could be something that may be giving you that freedom or giving you that kind of like liberation that maybe I don't have to lie about something. I would also say that surely Uranus is trying to get you out of your comfort zone when it comes to the way you share information with others, the way you manage your social media channels. And maybe this is a turning point. Maybe you're going to try something new to manage your social media channels that is going to take you to new heights. Often we need, a bit of a chaos with our website, for example. Often we need to get pushed by our friends. We need to get a bit more motivation because these are fixed signs and we can easily get stuck with that. Or maybe even how dependent I am on social media. That could be also. And Scorpio often wants to be doing a bit of a, like a cleansing around this as well. Also, maybe you have been hiding your inner thoughts for a while. Maybe there is a lot kind of like going on behind the scenes. There's a lot on your mind. And maybe you can ease that up by just talking to someone, maybe talking to a specialist with Mars being in the sixth house. It really feels like that, yes, you can be transforming your body with this as well, pretty much slowly but surely with Mars being in your sixth house. You can discover a new opportunity connected to work, and there could be frustrations coming up at work as well. And then it feels like that maybe you are not allowed to speak your mind. Someone is trying to kind of like hide the truth, and maybe you are ready to reveal that. So, guys, this is the breakdown for all 12 signs. I hope it helps, and I will see you with my next video. Bye bye.
Every sign and every house, a journey starts, and we allow the universe so vast and true. Astro Viktor, it's here for you.